Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to ET Retail webinar. To present this webinar, I welcome Mr. Pankaj Ranjan, Managing Director, Retail Services, JLL, on the topic Trends that Redefine Retail Spaces in India. There will be a presentation on the topic, followed by a question and answer session, wherein you may submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the question and answer session at the end of today's presentation. Now I request Mr. Pankaj Ranjan to start the presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And pleasure to be here. Good afternoon, people, friends. Today we are talking about future-proofing retail spaces. We came up with this presentation keeping in mind that there's so many things which are working around us, which is affecting retail today. We have customers who are looking at newer and better experiences. We have the industry which is grappling through GST, demonetization. We're looking from real estate developers who are saying, what is the future of these malls? Are the customers going to continue to shop, or is online or e-commerce the way to go? And we think there is a strong story for the offline retail as well. And that's where we put our thoughts together and saying, how can future retail stores and malls proof themselves to take on the ever-changing evolution of the retail industry and the preferences of consumers? So let me take you through this quick journey. Just give you a background and landscape, what's actually happening. On the pace of evolution of the retail formats. So if you look at it, really, when is really the big departmental stores or hypermarkets and chain stores which came up in the developed part of the countries, or the two largest economies bigger than India, where we say the retail has been a much more established format. If you look at it, in US, it came in the 1930s. In China, came in the 1980s. And the big format stores came up in India in 1990s. So really, we're still very, very late entrant. And it's only with the recent past we've come into the big format retail stores. But India is always a quick learner. India, what happens, took 70 years or 87 years to develop in the US. India is catching on, and is catching on in a faster pace in 20 years. The big shopping malls, which is the regional mall, the suburban shopping malls, came up in the 1980s in the US. In China, came in the 2000s. And India just came about 10 years, or about 7, 8, or 10 years back. So the pace has definitely increased. E-commerce has been constantly been a phenomena which has been there, which is very, very close, which is, even in the developed countries, we're recently seeing this phenomena come up. It came up in the 1990s and 2000. So if you look at the evolution of retail, it took the retails to evolve in the US, it took 80 years. The pace became faster. In China, it took 30 years. And now in India, it's only taken 20 years. So the story is that whatever happens in the West, we are no different. Only the pace with which it comes to India, it increases. So where is India retail? India retail is really accelerating on the evolution curve, and it is similar to developed markets. We are no different from anywhere in the world. We are very same. We are in line with the global trends as well. Yes, we behave a little differently, but it is the trend overall is not different from the matured markets, and we will catch on to the same trends as well. So I'll take this quote from Charles Darwin, which says, the strongest of species that survive are not the most intelligent, but the ones which are most responsive to change. So change, we all know, is evident. It's how fast we respond to the change is more important. We adopted e-commerce, or we adopted online retailing, we adopted the modern trade or retailing in a much faster sense than our peers in the developed economy. But it is not that we are far away from them. We'll adopt it, we'll reach out, and we'll be faster than that. Retail is something which is not new. The shops, the neighborhood kirana stores, the mom and pop stores have always been there in all parts of the world. But the transformation journey from unorganized mom and pop retail to organized retail will be much faster in a country like India, because India is a much more younger economy. It already has a trends to see what has happened in the international economies, so it can catch on to those trends and adapt to the Indian market. And secondly, it's a more aspirational and a younger economy, so we have more younger and aspirational people to adapt to this change. We've categorized today's presentation and the futures, the concept of what we should be doing to make our shopping centers more relevant in the future and our retail spaces to be more relevant under three broad categories. One is, how do we define these retail spaces? Secondly, what are the category innovations we need to be there to continue to be relevant and progressive? And secondly, how do we adopt technology? I think everywhere around us today, every business is affected by technology. And we need to imbibe technology in our businesses to ensure to be relevant for the next generation to come. So the first one is redefining retail spaces. The buildings which are made today, or any shopping center or any kind of space which is made, it doesn't need to only be architecturally be innovative or inspiring, but it needs to have that emotional connect with the customers which is in. So today it's not about building a brick and mortar building and expecting customers to come in and enjoy that building. It's not about them to come and live there, come and work there, come and actually also is enjoy in terms of retail and imbibe that entire part of their own lifestyle. Today it's about how they connect with the consumer or the people who live around, who are the customers. So if it's a retail center, it is about the people, how they connect, or to the neighborhood where their retail center is located, or to the catchment which it is. Each catchment is different. Each catchment's aspiration is different. The lifestyle are different. Today, for example, even in India, if you travel every 500 kilometers, the language changes, the dialect changes, the food habits change, the consumer preferences changes. Yes, it is universal, but the fact of the matter is we are different as well. So how can we adopt in our retail spaces? How can we adopt and create that emotional quotient with our connect with our customers? That's the most important part. So does your retail space, first thing, does it connect with the consumer? Because today's consumer is time constrained. Today he has multiple options. He has multiple options to go to the neighborhood stores. He can go online. He can go to any other mall as well, because the number of brands are the same and the merchandise they're selling the same. But in a competitively increasing environment, today the customer is traveling, is a world-class customer. He knows what's happening globally. He's connected on the internet. He's connected through media. So he knows what's happening internationally as well. But how does your retail space, the customer, identify with your specific store or your specific development of a retail shopping center? Does he, because he has less time, he needs to feel connected to be strongly pulled towards that development? The first one is about creating iconic spaces. In a city of skyscrapers, we all know about New York, we talk about Manhattan, we talk about big buildings, we've seen that in movies, people have visited. Everybody identifies Manhattan with this big stone and glass facade buildings. But you know what? It's in that Manhattan itself, the most photographed building is not a skyscraper or tall building. It is actually the Fifth Avenue store of Apple. So everybody is aspirationally, who goes as a visitor or as a customer or as a tourist or as a visitor, wants to go and see the Apple store and wants to go and identifies with that store because they want to go and shop there. They picture themselves where they love the experience for that. So that is what you create. You create that experience with the customer is by creating these stores which actually reflect more than the brand and create an experience for the customer to keep coming back and actually wanting to pick up the product from that, because the product will remain the same, but it's all about the experience and the connect which you have in identification of the store which the customer has with them. When we say today, when we're talking about customers which are time constrained and have multiple options to go to for in terms of spending their time, their leisure time, because they have limited leisure times, and there are enough opportunities which are competing to take that customer's leisure time. And shopping is only one part of that leisure time which they get to spend, and there are multiple options for them to go and spend that from a shopping perspective as well. It's very, very important that from a retail space itself, it enhances the connectivity. And when we mean connectivity, it means every kind of connection which makes the customer come to you much more easily, much more experiential in terms of the fact that the customer comes in, he's able to come and park, come and access your site in terms of retail shopping center, in terms of whether it's coming by public transport or self-transport, and even the city for that matter. If you're building, talking about cities like Dubai and Singapore, you're trying to create retail centers which cater to a larger population, which is the visiting population. It should be well even connected to international public transport, which is whether it's the airports for that matter. These become very, very important today. Today, people at one stage, we're talking about creating big, massive parking spaces for customers to come in, so that because majority of the people came through parking spaces. Who knows, 5 years later, these parking lots will be redundant and people will be actually coming from public transport, Ubering it to the center. So how do you make it more convenient for the customer to access and come into your center? That experience of retail starts for the customer starts as soon as he leaves his house, because that's when he starts in that mode of his mind that he's going to actually go and shop. If that connectivity from his house or the place where he's coming from to the shopping center or the retail space which he's coming to is not a great experience, his appetite to consume goes down, because a lot of the shopping and experience is not about consumption. It is not about a need, but it's about creating a need. You know, the 20 most Instagram places in the world, 19 of them have some kind of historical monumental experience to it, or have some kind of a historic attachment to it. But one of them is an anomaly. It is a shopping center, and it is the Siam Paragon Mall in Bangkok. So 20 Instagram places in the world, 19 are monuments or have historical importance, and one is a mall. You know, and it really goes to say that why customers are coming back to it and taking pictures, because it's somewhere they feel connected and they want to be seen there, or they want people to know that they were there at that place, and they want to keep this experience captured by way of pictures and uploading it on social media. Connectivity. So it's the topmost Instagram place in the world is Siam Paragon. It has a fantastic connection to the metro system. It has the Uber and a local taxi calling system, which is there at every doorstep. You can access through multiple entry points. Public transport is easily available. You don't have to wait for more than 5 or 10 minutes unless it's a really peak time office time, but it's still very organized. Even to catch a local cab as well, there is a proper line, and there is manned security helping people get there. There are people who, because it is frequented by a lot of tourists, language sometimes can be a barrier. There are people to help you around to get you a transport system, connect you to the transport system if you want to come in and go out of the mall as well. So that goes to a whole lot about programming and getting the software issues of the person's experience when they want to come into centers like these. Third is about offering an enriched experience. So it is not about, the brands are the same. You know, I don't think a Zara will change too much if it's an X shopping center or a Y shopping center. But today, from a visitor standpoint, are you able to give them a diversity of mix and service and create that balance of tangible and intangible services? So you give them the brands, but you give them the balance of intangible services of whether it's a concierge, whether it's somebody to help you with the transportation, somebody to help you with your forex exchange, somebody to help you with the language, somebody's like a personal shopper. But it's things like these which will always differentiate one center to the other. So you create the hardware, then you make a great building, you put all the ingredients in there, you put in the best of brands, the latest in the market. But if you do not cater to the softer aspects, the customer is not going to come, because he needs to connect and you have to create him the whole experience. As I said, we are all trying to drive more and more consumption. So you're asking him to spend more time, spend more out of his wallet. So you need to create that experience, and it's not about creating the right big building, and it's not about creating the right selection of brands, but it's also about creating the entire whole experience which the customer gets. And so that you can expect him to spend as much time as is possible and as much part of his wallet, and also create more frequency for the customer to come back. So the reason is why the customer needs to come back is because he feels connected and he finds that experience pleasurable to spend his leisure time there. I want to take an example of Mall of America. The Mall of America is a mall and it has everything, but it also has chapel. It is our chapel. So people have weddings in that mall. So what is it to be done? It's just that retail spaces or shopping malls are just about community spaces. So how can you connect and get that community to come and participate more in that building or that box which you have made is what you're trying to aim at. So creating simple things like this. So we're not asking to make chapels in India because we still have the weddings in temples or the others, but it's just looking at innovative ways to get people in to participate and identify there, is creating those which are about the community, which is what's the community wants. It could be a creche, it could be working spaces, it could be fitness centers, it could be a healthcare center, it could be a daycare center, it could be education institutions, which can be part of it, where you can get the customer to keep coming back and offering it as part of the community. So you're not building retail center, you're building community spaces and where there is shopping also alongside with it. The second trend, which I mentioned to you, is the category innovation. The world is changing very fast. The customers are changing, preferences are changing. Today, they're not about the same kind of trends because the fashion world is changing. Their eating out habits are changing. People want newer and fresher things to look at on a regular basis as well. So how do we create that category innovation in our shopping centers? Because you can't change much in a hard building because you've made this building which has survived for 30, 40 years. But what do you do to keep innovating in that building so that the customer feels fresh? There is the latest things which are already captured. So obviously one mechanism is to do shorter leases and frequent churns of the tenants as well, to keep moving out the tenants which may not be doing well or may not fit into the shop center or which are not in line with the consumer's preferences. Competition is more, but you can't churn beyond a point as well because there is a large amount of investment which goes by the retailer as well. But then how do you create these centers with taking into these givens, which is that the hardware cannot be changed so often, or it cannot be replaced. A large part of the hardware cannot be replaced. You cannot churn the tenants out so frequently as well. But how can you be future-proof as well? So the one is pop-up. There are a lot of brands who may not be sure of a market or who may be unwilling to enter into a market or may want to experiment before getting into a new market. And pop-ups give a big impetus for brands to come and experiment and the customers to also experience new brands before they enter into that market. So these short-term pop-up stores, which are physical spaces which are created for short-term, will give from a brand's perspective an understanding on the consumer's preferences and an insight to the market before they enter into for a long term or before they commit for a long term. Whereas from a customer perspective, this gives them a new variety to test out a new brand which may not be available in that market or in their nearby markets which they are living in or they're frequenting. So it gives from both ways, it works very well. From a retail shopping center owner or a retail center owner, it also brings in a fresh new life of tenants into that mall, wherein they're able to offer a differentiated offering which another center may not be offering, which could be short-term or a new big brand which is not yet in India or not in your city. You're able to offer it for a short period of time, will draw a larger section of customers, and it may be only available as a pop-up in your mall, which other centers may not be able to offer. So it's able to create awareness for these brands. It also will be able to connect with the consumers to get a feedback in terms of saying whether this brand will sell, what are the preferences, why it will not sell. It's also a very much cheaper mechanism, both from a mall owner, as a shopping center owner, and as well as a brand as well perspective. And also you get to test the new markets. So it's a great opportunity is to create pop-up stores in the mall. We've seen traditionally the pop-up stores are typically kiosks which come on the mall. And I don't think kiosks really serve the purpose, because the reason is kiosks are always meant for smaller business houses to sell things which don't have an experience, and smaller products which are very quirky. Pop-ups really is about testing and creating awareness about a brand. So you need to create dedicated pop-up spaces for brands to come and exhibit their partners. Secondly, there'll be enough companies and organizations which may not be retailers, but they may want to come and test a new product or a category or a service innovation which they may be doing about their brand. And pop-ups can be a great launching pad for these brands as well, or experiences as well. One example of this is the pop-up is the Box Park, which is in Shoreditch in London. It's the first world's pop-up shopping center. So the whole shopping center is built around pop-ups. So there are 60+ stores where they're global brands, but these are actually pop-ups. So these keep changing very fast, and they continue to move around as well. Wherein every time the customer goes, after a few weeks, he finds a lot of it is new as well. So brands can come in. The customer knows that this is not a regular store. They come to go and see there are lots of new brands. There may be some brands which are just starting up their retail journey, cannot afford to set up a full-fledged store on their own, but they can actually want to exhibit their merchandise and exposure to customers. And it's a great platform for new, what we call the startup retailers, as well as a pop-up as well. So there's a dedicated shopping mall kind of a concept which is there in London, which is dedicated to pop-ups as well, and it's called Box Park, and it's made out of containers. Secondly is how do we re-explore the F&B category as well. In the F&B category, today is the single largest driving reason for people to come back to shopping centers. or shopping plazas or shopping high streets. And we realized that there were three big categories. Apart from, we all tend to do restaurants, fine dining, QSRs, uh, concepts of restaurants and bars, but there are three categories which are emerging as new trends in saying a shopping center can do under these three categories to re-explore and reformat their F&B platform as well. The first one is food trucks, the second is food hall, and the third one is street food arena, which is plug and play kitchens as well. And I'll go into more details with each of these three. So on the F&B, today about F&B is not about food. It's not about eating. It is about a binding factor, which is about experience, and it is in between the shopping. So food becomes an ingredient part which joins the shopping and the experience together. Because brands don't change, people still have to eat 3 meals a day. And the way the culture of society is moving, people are tending to eat more and more. And Italy is one concept which was created in Italy, which is talked about, it's a food hall where it comprises of restaurants, food chains, beverages companies, retailers, and a cooking school. It's basically a pop-up platform for food, where it is everything related to food is a permanent festival which has been created, which keeps changing as we go by, which can getting new food companies, new products to come in, new retailers to come in who are in the food business to exhibit themselves, and also give you training and give people who are learning or have passion for food to try out various products as well. And Italy is one concept. I think my take is it's something which you can actually be experimenting in India, because people love food and we love to cook as well. And you know, a large part of our population, the women folk, are actually engaged every day in their homes by eating. So if you can connect and get them back into your shopping center by creating a concept and spend a couple of hours, engaging with them, this is not about eating. It's like an entertainment eating. So you're actually creating an experience for them to come together, is doing some activity, having a great time with friends or self, and also shopping a little bit and having their meals and then going out. So it's a great concept for customers to come in from an experiential perspective, which is based on an F&B platform. The F&B categories of food trucks. You know, when we've seen that there was a big era with the multiplexes, there's always a food court which is tucked in. It's a standard 5, 10, 15, 20 counters which are selling various kinds of different food formats, which is selling different food formats, and which are really permanent in nature. So there'll be always the same foods which are always there. And you know, you can't sometimes change the infrastructure which you build. So you build a 15,000 square feet fort. How often can you renovate it? How often can you replace the tenants and get it? But today, there is a very interesting category which has always been there in the high streets, typically in big cities like you go to New York for that matter, or even in India for that matter. They used to be those Chinese vans, and today now we call them the food trucks in a more savvy format. You could actually see if you can get them to incorporate and come in certain part of the day into your centers. Look at office buildings. Office buildings typically 9 to 6 kind of working hours. Typically covers 2 meals a day, and dead completely after 6 o'clock in the evening, and dead on a weekend. And when's the peak time for food? It's evening, and it's on the weekend. People don't want to come back to the office buildings or their offices to come and eat back into their the food area which has been created. Why do you need to invest in a full-fledged retail format but have movable? So you come in when the customers require it, you change the concepts, you get some food trucks to come and park in your concept, you create, and there's some new ones which will always be there. So you keep refreshing them with newer and newer concepts and newer categories of food or innovators to come and display their things, and customers get to experience something new. So it's how you can incorporate in the design. It could be in your parking lots. You can take them, if you have a ramp, you can take them to your to the third floor of your mall. It could be in the open area plaza which is around your mall as well. And you can create festivals, or you can get them at a certain particular time as well. So you can get food trucks to come in, which is, as I said, basically food truck is not really, it's more of a larger piece which says anything which is movable can come in, get in and get out in a short possible piece of time. The other one is there's another concept called Dinorama in Shoreditch, London. It's basically an open format street food festival. So there are multiple restaurants, bars, where there is no, and these are premium restaurants and bars who come and do it. So it's like a festival of food which you keep having short term for three days on a weekend in winters in a city like Delhi, and you're creating something like that in a permanent fixture. But what changes is the overall concept remains the same, but the people who come and actually running there are new. So they could encourage a lot more newer, younger chefs come and participate and rent out a place for a week and do something there, create concepts around it. Beverage companies can come and sponsor it. You can have music and food festivals around it as well, and depending on the time of the year you are. So it's creating a festival kind of a place where people just come there and they don't come with a preconceived thing that I am going to eat this food today or I'm going to this restaurant today. It's just that you come in there, it's a festival atmosphere, and you go create, and there are people who engage with the food, and which is with the food there is being part of the main category, which is driving it up. Another trend, which is a category innovation, is collect and collect. Whatever we say, online e-commerce businesses are here to stay. Customers will shop there. They will want that convenience. They want that flexibility, and we've seen that very prominently, and this is going to continue to increase specifically as well. So, but as I said, customers today want it seamless. So how do you incorporate the online story into your retail centers is the next big thing. For example, in the UK, Waitrose, John Lewis, and Primark have click and collect stores in shopping malls. So if it's not a very large shopping mall, you may not necessarily need to do a full-fledged supermarket or hypermarket. You have a hypermarket or a grocery business which has got a fast, robust online delivery system, wherein the customer, when comes before comes into the shopping center, is going to spend about 3 hours, orders it, and on the way out of the shopping center, he just goes to the collection center of the supermarket, his bags are packed, or is it delivered to his car, and he just drives off. So it's about creating that convenience. Customers, some of these things are just very mundane. He wants his basic groceries. He doesn't want that experience there. He just wants a convenience there. So you build that convenience, and you get that convenience to your doorstep itself for the customer to come in. When he's coming in to collect those bags, he's going to do something else in the mall. He's going to probably pick up a coffee, pick up something else, meet someone as well, and make it as a meeting point. So click and collect becomes an important factor, important ingredient to actually look at for the next age of shopping centers also. Third, and the last trend is, how do we incorporate technology? It's a given. Today, customers' experience starts on a mobile phone and ends up in a store, or starts in the store and ends up on a mobile phone or in his laptop. So it's very important from a retailer and a developer to incorporate technology today, because you don't know where the customer is going to start from and where is he going to end from, where he's going to shop from. So it's very important to incorporate the entire technology piece into the into the retail spaces. First one is embracing the smart customer. So you create digital platforms in the store. You start sending out customized deals to customers, because you have enough data to know when the customer walks into the shopping center, is saying what kind of customer, is he my shopping customer or not? If I give him a better deal, will he likely to come and purchase something? Is he looking at something specific? Have we given him the experience of browsing through, going through multiple racks, and just creating a small kiosk there or a concierge to help him by giving that experience, so he knows, oh, I'm looking for a black shirt, typically is in the third rack on the second level. He can just browse it and not go through the entire store looking for a black shirt specifically. So it's about how do we incorporate technology into the store and into the shopping center to pull him and make his life more easier and make it more smarter. So much so that today even the high streets have started adopting and incorporating technology. In Regent Street in London, 80% retailers have deployed beacons in all their stores, which are Hamleys, Armani, Longchamp, and Hackett, where they're pushing, when the customer enters that high street or lives in that neighborhood, or this their regular customer, they're pushing out personalized offers to them. So today, it is not about, every customer is a bit different. How you are able to create that personalized connect with each of your customers to get him back is more important. The customer has a choice, whether he can go to the Westfield Mall, he can go to the high street, he can go to anywhere else, or he can shop online. But if you're giving him something which is more exclusive to himself or to him or her, and is making more personalized, his likely chance, if he's in the neighborhood, he'll want to walk into your store and not go into the shopping mall per se as well, or an X or Y shopping mall. So as I said, the customer's experience doesn't start today in the store. It really starts at home or on the way to the store. So it starts with the mall. We've seen younger kids today are digitally connected. Everybody's got access to screen, whether it's a television screen, it's a mobile phone, it's got iPads or the others. Everybody's got a screen on them, and they're connecting and working on that. So really, a customer interface starts at the screen level on his mobile phone, and it ends at the store, or it starts the store and ends on the screen. So how do you integrate that technology that the store becomes seamless? So the look and feel of the store starts, and the screen becomes one seamless interface for the customer, and that's what the mobile technology can offer today from a retail store, physical store owner perspective. For example, Westfield itself has creating a shopping app for all their brands and for all their malls. So you can actually log in, and before entering the mall, you could actually have studied the entire mall, know what exactly it is, where is the parking slot, probably book your parking slot as well, identify the stores you want to visit, identify if there are any specific deals any store is offering. So you can actually know in the entire center before you actually go there, and also get specific offers for yourself. So it's really not about one retailer, it's all about all of the retailers in that shopping mall or the group of shopping malls coming together and creating more of a reason for the customer to make it more convenient for him to keep coming back. So rethinking the purpose of retail space is the most important. So today is as about community. The space has to be a living and a breathing website itself. It is, as I said, the entire thing starts at an interface which is in somebody's palm of how he wants to go and spend his time in the retail center. So if you are able to create that reason for him, he can able to get, and also collect that feedback, then what is his real feedback of that experience in the shopping center, and take that feedback and collect it and implement it. That's where the purpose of the shopping space will get redefined. Nordstrom also in one of the stores started putting on their specific merchandise and saying this one is popular and sick, because everybody today wants to be highlighted on their social media. People want to post pictures, connect with other friends globally as well, and they also want to follow the latest trend. So something which is trending on social media is always has a likely chance of getting more likely picked up. So you can go in and incorporate social media in your retail store itself, whether through merchandising, whether through your own social platform, and creating that connect on social media with your customer base and reaching out to a far larger audience as well. Sustainability. I think as a community of people, the more educated and the more urban we're getting, we're realizing the nuances of the flip side of the urbanization as a living example as well. People living in Delhi will relate to it pretty much as well. Also, is that the amount of pollution which we are facing, the bigger cities, the challenge of traffic we are facing, the kind of urbanization we are facing. What are we leaving back for the planet? So people are becoming more conscious. We are seeing things like marathons being organized for creating this awareness of sustainability. So if you're able to be seen as a part of a community which is giving back to the society or betterment of the society in the future, sustainability also is a big driving factor subconsciously for customers to come in. There are being Oxford Street London and Westfield Stratford are using power generating floors. So you really walk up, or you walk on the floor. There are some tiles. This you step on them by way of using the energy of the human being because of being stepping on them. They are able to generate and able to supply electricity back to the grid or to their own shopping center as well. So even it's a small effort, but it goes a long way, and people enjoy it as an experience. And secondly, it also gives the landlord, the owner of the shopping center, some estimation on terms of how many people are giving it. So there's a lot more purpose behind it. There's a good purpose behind it of sustainability. There's something which is also give you intelligent information about your customers as well, which you can collect as technology. So that was from my side, what we think are the three main category innovators which can make retail spaces and shopping centers future-proof. The world is constantly changing, and we hope to keep changing and upgrading on these category innovations, redefining the spaces, incorporating technology into the entire thing as well. But as I said, this is a constant learning and an effort to keep the customers engaged, keep giving back to the society, and creating retail spaces which are community spaces, and shopping becomes incidentally part of the entire thing. Thank you.
Yes, now we'll be starting off with the question and answer session. So the first question is from Anand. Can you speak? Many global brands say that they find it difficult to find quality retail spaces in the country. What is your assessment on the same? Can we come up with more quality retail spaces?
We can definitely come up with a lot more quality spaces. Yes, unfortunately, most of the big brands are not able to get quality retail spaces. The reason is because the number of shopping centers that we are building is far lesser than the demand, particularly in areas where the markets where the demand is, because the cost of building a shopping center is very, very high. A lot of developers are staying away from this asset class because of the nature of investment, and also from the fact that a lot of the developers do not realize they realize that they don't know how that shopping center and managing and owning a shopping center is not like any other asset class. It's a very, very engaging asset class. But my take is a lot of the international brands and brands, even in homegrown brands who are smarter, have started innovating and not depending on shopping centers for their space needs. They started going to high streets. They started going to organized retail spaces. So it's not about shopping malls alone. Today is about where your customer is and where you can create a like-minded set of people, of brands to come in and create that reason for the customer to come in. Customers are also willing to come in and take that space as well. So that's why the high street is a combination of high streets, it's a combination of retail below office buildings, it's a combination of quality shopping malls, which is emerging as a trend, as a location choice for brands.
Next question is from Dipesh. Can we use technology to bring down the rentals for retail establishments?
Yes, definitely. You can actually bring down technology. Today, almost 25% of every space in every store in a good shopping mall is occupied by backend by storage for merchandise and for all the reasons. If we can incorporate technology and leave this excess space out and not occupied for storage and have real-time supply of the merchandise as it moves off the shelf, and it could be stored off remote location near the mall or the retail store. And by way technology, the supply chain is so efficient that whenever the merchandise is finishing, automatically sends an alarm or a replenishment request to the warehouse, and the warehouse supplies the merchandise well in time on the shelves before it runs out. So you could actually release about 20-25% of the space, which is inefficient space, and you're paying top dollars only to do storage.
Question from Sandeep. How important would be sustainability related initiative in a place like India where customers are highly price sensitive?
It does not cost too much at times to implement sustainability. Secondly, our customers are getting conscious and they're willing to pay a little bit premium, maybe not in the initial thing. Secondly, sustainability will also add up to the bottom line in the long run to the center. So you can actually incorporate that. So upfront maybe a little extra cost, but the merits which you see over the long, because you're not building center for the first year, 2 years, or 3 years. If you look at a 10-year period, it will always pay off and it will be better off as well. So you can actually incorporate sustainability today because the customer may be price sensitive in the short run, but actually the benefit of it to the owner who's investing in it will always be there. The returns will always be there. And secondly, is a great global practice as well, where customers are also preferring to go into centers which are sustainable today. And you can use it as a great marketing tool to drive more people.
Question from Rishi. Will India adopt the new trends available in international market in coming future?
Definitely, as I said, what took 80 years to come into mature markets like US took 30 years or 40 years in China. It took 10 or 20 years in India. So, but it's absolutely in line with the global trends. Yes, India is a little different country, so you have to tweak that. So even a McDonald's had to come and sell burgers, but it had to be a Mac Aloo Tikki burger, but it was ultimately a burger. So you have to tweak it to Indian market and consumer preferences, but it is nowhere different from what happens internationally. So we are very much in line with the international trends, but tweaked with the Indian context.
Question from Jay. Do you really feel Ola stand or Uber stand at malls can help them to make a mark?
Absolutely. For both from the company's perspective, it actually works three ways. It's a great from a consumer perspective because the customer will, it's a very convenient for them. Secondly, from a mall owner perspective, it's a great support service which you're providing to the customer who's coming in, that he doesn't need to come and drive and get in his car, pay the parking, where he can just come and order a cab and it's already there, or it's just there's a kiosk or a terminal which helps him to order their cabs. The thirdly, from a sustainability perspective, you're encouraging public transport. So in fact, it is there in all the prominently in all the shopping malls internationally. And I talked about this case study of Siam Paragon. They have this kiosk wherein you want to order a cab, which is like a Uber and Ola, which is their local Grab taxi. You just go to the terminal. You don't need to put it on your phone, and they'll be there in the next 5 minutes. So it's a great service, a community service, great for sustainability, great from a customer experience perspective.
Question from Darshana. These suggestions which involved capex, such as incorporation of technology, seems to certainly improve traction. But how would it stand in terms of ROI and payback period?
So, as I said, some of these technologies, things will have to be incorporated depending on the catchment and the sub-market. So if it's from a retailer perspective, if it's a national homegrown retailer and they're implementing it as part of their digital strategy and digital push, it can be done from a larger perspective. If it's from a shopping center, if it's in a matured market where the appetite or the customer is much more evolved, the payback will be in shorter term. But as I said, today the world is very well connected and smartphones is a given thing. The customers are very well aware. It's a question of time. The customers will want technology to be incorporated. So what you do is you make the center, making it technology enabled. So as the customer matures, you keep adding more and more to it. Some things which are smaller, which is sustainability. As I said, it may be costly to implement in the upfront, but it'll be cost effective. It will pay back if we are able to generate, like something which is like sustainability from a technology, from a power consumption perspective. So if you can actually reduce your power consumption or pay for your power bills, which is lower for the next 10 years, some of these technology features will pay back for itself.
Next question from Anupam. What has been the impact of e-commerce on the retail consumption? Has the overall growth of consumption in urban retail shopping centers reduced due to advent of e-commerce? What are the estimates on the same from some advanced markets?
So so from an organized perspective, India is still about 6%. Internationally, China is Korea is about 14%, US is about 8-10%. We think that will go to double digits and faster. Overall, as of now, the online e-commerce story has really helped the overall retail business itself. Because what the online e-commerce businesses did was they got the customers to start shopping for brands. They started giving them the flavor of buying brands. They started giving them the flavor of buying more and more. So it increased consumption. It increased the customers' preferences to buy brands, which was earlier probably slower. So with this, it in fact helped the offline stores as well. Our take is that it will be a combination of the two. India is still a growing market. Majority of our population, 65% of our population is below 35. So it's the overall consumption, overall percentage-wise, e-commerce will grow, but the offline market is so strong and large as well that the offline market is continuing to grow as well. So it will be a coexistence, whereas the overall market size will grow, and it will be great for both. It will be an opportunity for both segments to continue to work alongside each other. And secondly, become a mix match of the two. So it will become an omni-channel retail than an online or offline story.
Question from Shashidhara. What is the future of neighborhood shopping centers in India, considering the rentals they expect equivalent to established million square feet mall?
It's a very big segment which is still not being addressed very well, is the neighborhood shopping centers. The reason is till now we all were shopping for our daily convenience needs in the next door high streets, which used to cater to that. We're not creating more high streets now. People want better experience even for shopping for their daily needs as well. And part of their part of their weekly consumptions or the short-term needs as well, where they don't want to go into a big mall because it's not convenient at times to get into a big mall because it's not nearby. So next door shopping centers become very, very relevant. From a concept perspective, from a cost, it is definitely not the same. The neighborhood shopping centers in some markets may command a premium also, and in some markets may not command that kind of pricing. That's why the neighborhood shopping center has to be planned from a cost perspective, that they are sustainable. You don't need to build a very fancy shopping mall for a convenience center. You could just build an open format, simple shopping center, which is open format, which can actually cater to the neighborhood retailers' demands and customers' demand. So neighborhood shopping centers does not mean big box like high quality, high spec malls. You need to give good, clean amenities. You need to give simple and clean structures for retailers and customers to come in. It does not mean you need to put Italian marble and finishings and you need to put big, large atriums. It's as long as it's well designed, it's simple, it has all the conveniences, and it is catering to the demand, and it caters to some market. Neighborhood shopping centers make a whole lot of case for development in India.
Question from Ashish. What role does a mall play in getting to understand the customers and their preferences? How do they use this data to provide a personalized experience to the customer and also to bring them back each time?
So that's a really where the differentiating factor comes from one mall to the other. Is a lot of these malls are now using data analytics and are actually trying to capture as much the preferences of customers. They're trying to capture it. Earlier it was all about footfall. Today is not about footfall because everybody realizes that the number of people coming into the mall is not so important. It's about how much of this footfall or the people coming in is actually spending, and how much of them are coming repeatedly and spending more and more. So for them to capture data is very, very important. They started using technology to adapt to capture the data, both intelligence and also on-ground intelligence as well, by capturing and speaking to their customers, connecting with them, creating social media platforms for the customers to give and list their preferences. And some of these malls are really actually are connecting with their customers and understand their preferences and are changing their models of operation, keeping in mind what demands and preferences as well. So it's becoming, they're capturing this through feedback from customers through social media and in person. They're capturing it through technology when the customers coming and interacting in the mall as well.
Question from Arul Sali. Given the statutories and local regulation challenges, do you think it will be financially viable for mall developers to have a few and play kitchens and in a safe food courts to encourage newer players and fresh offering to consumers?
Absolutely, and it's like one of the category innovation in the F&B we talked about is the shortage one, Dinerama, which is basically plug and play kitchens. So the major amount of capex investment is done by the owner or the promoter of that space or the mall, and wherein you get more and more new experienced retailers, F&B players, or chefs to come and experiment and reach out, and customers come and get to experience it. So it's like a pop-up in food. And you're creating the basic infrastructure because nobody's going to come and invest in short term from infrastructure perspective, and you can take it as part of your project cost as well. So it becomes an extremely important category innovator in this segment.
Question from Lahu Sethi. How local retailer will face competition of e-commerce? They are giving products on too low price.
I don't think now the discounting and the price competitiveness of e-commerce is really coming more or less on the equal ground. Yes, the local retailers do face a competition. I think the local retailers have a very strategic edge. In some cases, they know their customer extremely well. They're very well connected because they've been servicing that customer for a long period of time. Is how do you create that connect with the customer to continue to be engaged with them? I think it's not always about price. It's all about how you're connecting with the consumer. Secondly, also, are you providing them enough services? Today, it's not about product selling. Today, it's about an experience as well. A local customer who knows a local retailer who knows his catchment around very well, and is able to connect and knows his preferences of his customer, can service and make it a much more effectively a reason for that customer to come back to him than go online or go to an organized retail store. Uh, and simple is that some of these mom and pop kirana stores who've been there for 30, 40 years would know their catchment, their families, their preferences of what they buy, what they eat for breakfast, what kind of cereals they eat, what kind of they need a X amount of eggs every month or every day, than a regular retailer who would not have any connect, which will be just a brick and mortar store with some experience. So how do you differentiate and connect with your own customers and reach out to them and make it a much more experience and connect, which you can use, which or knowledge which you have used or that connect to effectively service him is going to be a key differentiating factor. And this is not going to be a differentiating factor. Today, the bigger chains are trying to say, can I know my customer better? So the KYC today is, can I know your customer? They want to know their own customer better, trying to create offerings for a clutch of customers individually for you. Whereas you are as a local retailer sitting in that market, been doing that business for a long period of time, you know your customer for such a long time, you know the preferences. If you can service him better, there's no reason he'll go anywhere else. And obviously quality product is important.
Question from Jagan. Do you think Indian customers are ready for convince retail in fuel station?
Absolutely. Today, as I said, retail is about community spaces and convenience. So a fuel station is typically very conveniently located in a neighborhood or in a very close accessible proximity to everybody, to the customer base around that area. So if you're able to create and offer him that offering, which is a convenience-based thing, there is no reason the customer will go there, because anyway, will start not come there, because the reason is he's anyways going for his fuel needs there. He's passing by that fuel station for multiple times in the day or in the week or the anyways. So if you're able to create a reason for him as a convenient for him to go there, he'll come in. There has to be a product offering. Most of these offerings in convenience stations in India don't have the product offering itself. Secondly, it is typically tucked away and is like a sidelined part of space filler in that fuel station. It can't be. The customer will go away and he'll go buy shop somewhere else. He'll go to the next door store where there's more convenient to get it. So if you give him that convenience, give him that experience, he'll come there and shop. Why not?
Another question from Jay. What strategies would you suggest to include community centers inside a mall like Mall of America?
I think you need to study your catchment where you are and what does that community want. If it's a very working class urban community like Gurgaon, they probably want to crash in there. It's young couples who are living on their own, staying away from their families, don't have the place to leave their kids. They want to go for a movie and they can't take the kid with them. You create a crash in that. You're able to create you are in a market where there is people want spaces where they can actually do celebrations, for example, weddings or birthdays or any community kind of engagement. You create a community hall there for them to come and engage and participate. You can create, if it's a community which will appreciate and willing to engage in sports activities, you create a sports area for them, wherein it's about how do you keep getting what the customer in that area is looking at, and how do you get him to come, give him another reason to come to that shopping center. So you give him that reason, he'll come. So it's a chapel. There, people who get married don't get married in temples. They get married and they don't have the stringent thing that it cannot be part of a shopping center. Here, maybe something different required. It may be required. It could be education classes for that matter. Where do coaching institutes take space? They typically take space in office buildings or in and around residential colonies in a house and start a coaching institute. Imagine some young kids coming, parents also coming picking them up, or parents, young kids. If you put it next to a shopping mall or part of a shopping mall, you asking for a tuition class. If a kid is spending 2 hours, he'll want to come and eat, drink something, or the parent who's waiting to pick up this child incorporate gets to spend 2 hours in the shopping mall or an hour in the shopping mall. There's no reason why they will not do that. It's just that about you have to incorporate and seeing what the need of your catchment is. I've seen things like Kumon classes open in a shopping center in Gurgaon, and what it does is that the coffee places does extremely well because the mothers with young kids come and spend an hour or two, and they end up meeting their friends for a coffee or buying some groceries for their house and utilize that 1 hour extra better than others is waiting for outside that space of that education institute.
Last question from Neetu. Who owns the customer in a mall? The mall or the retailers? How does this change through the customer journey?
I think both own it equally. The shopping mall ultimately is looking to get in and survive, because if the tenant, which is the shopping or the own occupier of that store, which is a shopping, which is a retailer, is able to generate returns from the store and pay him rental or pay him the value of the store, and the retailer is looking at it, is there enough customers coming into that mall to shop to sustain his business? And if he's able to sustain his business, he's going to pay for the store and he's going to continue to occupy the store. So from both the owner of the shopping mall and the retailer, for them both, ultimately the customer is important for them. So it's both working in tandem each other. Is the most important fact, is to attract that customer in. So both own that customer equally. If either of them absolved of their responsibility, believe me, both the retailer will suffer and the shopping mall owner will suffer more, in fact, because the retailer will not want to continue to be there, and the shopping mall owner will not want to have a tenant which doesn't pay for it. So ultimately, the customer is the king. He has to come in, and that's why the retailer and the developer both will survive.
We are left with one more. There's some more time is left, so can we take one more question?
Please go ahead.
Just the last one. Yeah. So this from Rishi: will loyal customers change their mindset because of better offerings in marketplace?
I think customers are not. I'm not going to use a word not loyal, but they are always shopping around. It's human psychology. They'll always want to see something better or easier available for them. As long as you're able to provide them that reason to keep coming back to you, otherwise they'll just go away. So you need to provide them the reason to come back to you, whether it's a marketplace, whether it's a retail store, whether it's online, offline. You need to create that compulsion of reason to come back. The compulsion of reason there's no set answer for it. It could be product, availability of product, it could be experience, it could be pricing, it could be just the convenience factor. Could be the snow value, for that matter. That if I am able to put it on the social media like Instagram, that I'm in Siam Paragon Mall, and I'm able to tell my friends that I've shopped at the Zara store in Siam Paragon Mall, or I've shopped at X, Y, and Z, and that is perceived to be a big thing in front of my friends or my family, or gives me that feel of snow value, you'll come and do it. If he's looking at convenience and your access to your retail store is so inconvenient, the customer is not going to come. He's going to go online, for that matter. Or if that X shopping center is running a bigger promotion or is able to engage with the customers well by running, some festival, I might drive 10 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes extra, take that extra pin to go in there, because the experience there is much more pleasurable. So it's all about how you're able to create the experience for the customer.
All right. So time to wind up this session. Thank you, Mr. Pankaj Ranjan, Managing Director, Retail Services, JLL, for the presentation on the topic, Trends that Redefine Retail Spaces in India. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take all the questions due to time constraints. If you have any other questions, please send them at editor@etretail.com. It was an engaging and insightful talk, and hope all the participants have enjoyed the session. The recording of this webinar will be available on etretail.com. Thank you everyone for joining us. Goodbye.
Pleasure. Thank you.